I want you to be honest with me for a moment. Do you feel like your team's chief problem solver? Do you start your day with a very clear plan for your own strategic work, only to have it hijacked by 10 o'clock because a team member just needs 5 minutes to help solve a problem or dilemma? Do you find yourself rewriting reports because it's faster to do it myself? Do you feel that if you stepped away for a week, your entire team would grind to a halt? If this sounds like your leadership life, you're not just a leader, you're a lifeguard. You're constantly scanning the horizon for those drowning team members ready to dive in, drag them to shore, and perform corporate CPR. And while this feels heroic in the moment, and it is the single biggest barrier to your strategic leadership presence. Because while you are saving people, no one is actually steering that ship. Today, we're going to reverse a conventional leadership truth. We're told that good leaders are always available, they always have the answers, and that they're the most helpful person in the room. I'm here to tell you that being too helpful is a leader within Savviness Ladder Rung behaviour that is keeping your team and you stuck. To move to Rung 10, you need to stop being the fixer and be the strategic trailblazer. Excellent is your baseline, but presence is your breakthrough. You're only one reconstructed thought away from the breakthrough you deserve in your life and leadership journey. And today, in episode 34, we're going to learn how to engineer high trust, high impact cultures using the intentional teams method. Welcome back, my lovely. I'm Higgins, and this is the Strategic Leader Within podcast. We are in the second episode of the Strategic Leadership Presence series, which is a 6-part series. In episode 1, we talked about the visibility paradox and how our archetypes, the responsible executor, the thoughtful contributor, and the careful analyst, can anchor us at Rung 2 on the leadership savviness ladder. We realise that our excellence in doing is often what keeps us from leading. Now, if you're not familiar with the Leader Within Savviness Ladder, in the description below is a link where you can download that ladder so that you can follow along and see what the ladder looks like and the progression that we're going to take over this 6 weeks series. Today, we're taking the next step. If presence is about how you show up, then the intentional teams method is the structure that allows you to show up in that way. Now, I just want to be clear for a moment. The intentional teams method is a full proprietary framework inside the Leader Within methodology. It's a comprehensive team coaching and development process that I use when working with teams. So it's impossible for me to unpack the entire process, but what I'm going to give you is the strategic introduction to this framework. And I will still give you practical tools that you can implement today without knowing the full methodology. If you start applying the things that I share with you today, you will start to move your team from that disconnected or dysfunctional team to the intentional team. This is how you reclaim your time and stop being the tactical lifesaver and finally have the space to operate as the strategic trailblazer I know that is within you. Let's look at how our 3 archetypes usually handle team leadership when they're at Rung 2 of a strategic leadership presence. See if you recognise your lifeguard style here. The responsible executor as a leader, we could say, would be the bottleneck. If you're the responsible executor, your team leadership is defined, I suppose you could characterize it as over responsibility, taking ownership of everything. You're the one that stays until 8 p.m. to finish the PowerPoint deck because the team's version wasn't up to standard. You give instructions that are so detailed, they leave no room for the team's own thinking. You become the bottleneck, and your team stops thinking for themselves because they know you're going to catch the ball anyway. Over time, your team feels disempowered and you are exhausted. The thoughtful contributor would be referred to as, I suppose, the harmonizer. If you're the thoughtful contributor, you leave through over accommodating people. You hate the idea of the team feeling stressed or unhappy. You avoid giving them uncomfortable, stingy-wingy feedback because you don't want to damage the relationship. You prioritise harmony over high performance. Your team loves you, but they're not growing because you don't set clear nested objectives, and we'll explain what that is a bit later on in the episode, or firm boundaries. The team's output remains average, which reflects on you and your team's strategic presence. The careful analyst could be referred to as the ghost. If you're the careful analyst, you lead through precision and distance. You expect the team to be as data-driven as you and as thorough as you. You might disappear into your own deep work for days, assuming the team knows what to do because it was in an email. The trap that you fall into is that you provide the compass, you fail to provide the compass and the torchlight, which we'll go into in this episode. The team feels disconnected and uncertain. Without your active vocal direction, they spiral into indecision and you end up frustrated by their lack of initiative. In all these three cases, you, as the leader, are working harder than the team. That is, by definition, a rung to leader on the Savviness Ladder. An intentional team on rung 10 has a system that works so that you can do the leading. So why is it so hard to let go? Why do we keep diving back into the doing, even though we know theoretically that it's so much better to be that visionary? It's because of three things: mirror neurons, emotional contagion, and the doing is a well-worn neural pathway that leads you into doing and lifeguarding because it's so much safer and well-known. As the leader, you are the emotional thermostat of the room. If you are in the high beta wave, brainwave state of tactical urgency, your team's neuroception, your team's brain neurocepts that stress. They catch that stress and your anxiety. When a team catches a leader's anxiety, the prefrontal cortex begins to shut down. They move into that threat state. And what do humans do in threat state? They stop innovating. They stop taking risks, and they wait for you to tell them exactly what to do. So being the reliable executor, you're stressed and redoing all their work. Being the thoughtful contributor, you're stressed and you're being helpful, accommodating, and avoiding direct conversations or conflict. And if you're the careful analyst, you're You're so deep in your own thoughts and analytics that you assume that the team is there too. All these three patterns, archetype patterns, are actually neurologically conditioning your team to be dependent on you. Also, the Goldilocks effect comes in. Your brain has that just right zone for optimal performance. When you're the chief problem solver, you are constantly toggling between the team's tactical fires and your own strategic priorities. This constant context switching is a massive drain on your brain's glucose levels. What you're doing at that point is putting your brain through a capability building march every single day without a map. By the afternoon, your PFC is depleted. You no longer have that cognitive energy to be the strategic trailblazer. You revert back to being the lifeguard because it's a well-worn neural path that requires less strategic effort. The intentional teams method is designed to lower that cognitive load on you by creating clarity and autonomy for your team. There's 5 distinct phases. Let's walk through them now. Phase 1 is the compass and lifeline. This is identity and ways of working. This is where you identify the team's makeup. When you're working with me, we'll use diagnostics such as MBTI, Myers-Briggs, or Gallup's strengths to understand the individuals. But the most important part of this phase you can do now without any of those diagnostics, and it's a team agreement or charter. Most teams assume they know how to work together. An intentional team defines how they're going to work together. You baseline your engagement scores and set a measurable baseline for performance. You are setting the ground rules on the way that everyone's going to work together so that you don't have to continually police behaviour. Phase 2 is the destination, the vision. Here you're going to align with the business strategy and organisational strategy. You'll co-create a 12-month vision statement, or you could consider a master goal for your team. And when you're working with me, we determine nested objectives. So we look at your organisational goals, how they feed into your business or your department's function, and then finally how they fit into your team's objectives. And you start to set KPIs that measure success. Phase 3 are the signposts. This is breaking those larger organisational goals or the vision, the master goals and the vision, down to smaller achievable goals that can be done within 90 days. It's setting signposts out and bridging the gap between vision and action in really achievable chunks. We identify if you're going to bridge the gap from where you are now to that vision, what are the capability gaps? What does the team need to be to reach that vision? And capability isn't just about people. It can be people, process, technology, or even systems. Once we know what capability we need to bridge from here to achieve those visions, the vision, and we have 90-day signposts, we prioritise those capability building activities into specific 90-day goals. Phase 4 is breaking it down even further. This, I could say, is the torchlight. It's what we're focusing on right now. So a helpful kind of approach or methodology here is, if you're familiar with Agile, it's called sprints, where you define 2-week sprints. Some take it out to 4 weeks, but it's basically sprints that breaking those 90-day goals into smaller, achievable actions. So now we have the goals and the actions in place. And those actions are the things that we're going to complete in the next two weeks. In the full methodology, we use the WHOOP method, which is Wish Outcome Obstacle Plan, during our fortnightly check-ins. This keeps the torchlight on the deliverables without you having to micromanage the process. Stage 5 is the North Star. This is the Rung 10 destination. You're not just looking at the next 90 days, you're looking at the strategic horizons. So this is longer term, what you want to achieve in the next 18 months to 3 years to help achieve the organisation's strategic position. You're determining the future capability the team requires long term to remain a strategic asset to the company. So do you see the shift? When you have the compass, the destination and the torchlight in place, the team knows where they are going and how they're going to get there. You no longer have to be the lifeguard because you've built a high-performing ship. Now let's look at specific power moves from the Leader Within playbook that you can do right now to start this transformation. I suggest Power Move 35, setting up the team for success. Here, this is your foundational move for phase 1. You're aligning your team priorities early in the week to avoid missteps. This replaces assumption with alignment. I want you to ask, what clarity or resources does my team need this week to own their work without me? This is the first step from moving from that lifeguard to the strategic trailblazer. The second power move is Power Move 64, set individual team goals. So this lives in phase 2. You can't build high trust culture if people don't understand what winning looks like them personally. So remember we talked about nested objectives, what the objectives of the organisation, then the department, and then the team. This is the centre of that concentric circle, those nested objectives. You're going to collaboratively set goals that align with those organisational nested objectives. This means that the individual's not going to kind of fall into that mind reading trap of trying to think up what you're thinking or what they think the organisation needs from them. You're giving them absolute clarity. The third power move that you could implement is Power Move 76, revisit the delegation list. We mentioned this in episode 1, but it's such an important part from your personal leadership journey or self-leadership, because often if you're a lifeguard, you're continually rescuing other people, and which means that your list of things that you need to do keeps growing. So what I want you to look at is revisit the delegation list and really honestly ask yourself, what's one task that I could delegate this week, and communicate your trust in ownership when you do delegate that task. Power Move 83 is always overlooked by leaders, and it's celebrate team success. And the reason why you want to celebrate the team success is that people need to see the torchlight working. So to give you a little bit more brain science here and why this is so important is that as high achieving leaders we have that continual sense of drive. We want to keep chasing after the next thing. And this is your dopamine and a little bit of cortisol in action. But dopamine is the drive chemical. And we can sometimes fall into the achievement paradox because we're always driving to the next goal and not pausing to celebrate success. And that achievement paradox is the more I achieve, the less successful I feel. Now, we don't want that for our team now, do we? So pausing to celebrate the success is not just showing people how the torchlight's working. It's also encouraging other neurochemicals, your oxytocin and serotonin, where you feel connection. And when you feel connection back to the goal, it makes you want to achieve more. This reinforces the signposts and builds a collective drive that you need for Rung 10 leadership as a strategic trailblazer. So your challenge this week is stop being helpful and start being more intentional. Now, if you do want a AI prompt for your favourite AI tool for this episode, please do head to the show notes. I have what's called a master priming prompt in there that gives your favorite AI tool all the context it needs and a couple of prompts for you that relate to this episode that will help you do things like, let me just quickly look at that prompt. It'll help you identify, tasks that could be a capability building opportunity for a team member. It could also provide things like the specific signposts or torchlight that you need to provide so that your team members can own those tasks. And it can also help you find what to delegate so that your prefrontal cortex is free to do that strategic work. So this week, I want you to take 4 action steps beyond the AI prompt. First is to identify the rescue moment, that moment that you're about to dive in and solve a person's problem. Instead of giving them the answer, this is step 2, use Power Move 35. Ask them, what is the outcome we're looking for here and what is the first step you recommend? This way, you're redirecting their responsibility back to them. Step 3 is ask yourself, what capability is this team member missing that makes them come to me for that answer? It may also just be that they lack certainty or they lack autonomy. Whatever capability is missing, if it's something that you can't do right now, then put it on your list for the next 90-day goal session so that you can address that capability in the future. But see what you can do about giving them a quick coaching or mentoring session to help bridge that capability gap that they're experiencing right now. And the 4th step is your reconstructed thought. Instead of the old thought, I need to fix this so we don't fail, try this thought instead. I'm building the team's capability so that they can succeed without me. My lovely, that's the sneak peek into the intentional teams method. I've given you the strategic overview, and that is your ticket out of the engine room. It's the framework that allows you to stop lifeguarding, and start leading with unmistakable strategic presence. In our next episode, which is the third in the series, we're going to talk about the strategic North Star, and we'll look at you as a leader. We're going to talk about how you can lead with unshakable vision and values so that even when the torchlight fades, you and your team remain that steady, grounded force that the organisation looks to for directions. Remember, excellence is your baseline, but presence is your breakthrough.